one, I think there's one change I have not updated because the firm here is Inghua and Cathay. I don't think many people know Inghua nowadays, so I changed it in the test questions, but I forgot to update the answer sheet. Okay, doesn't matter, you can put GD here. So when the question asks how far, okay, do you agree that the two firms are operating as oligopolists? There are two sets of skills here. The first one is a general skill. The general skill is when they ask you how far, or when they ask you to explain whether, or explain if. Okay? When you get questions on explain whether, or when you get questions on how far, if it's 3 or 4 marks, can you make sure you present thesis and NP thesis? If it's 2 marks, chances are you do not need to. Okay? So when they ask you to explain whether Inghua and Cathay are operating as oligopolists, or how far do you agree that they are operating as such? Okay? Even though it's not discussed, you still need 2 sides. You can tell from the tone, right? From the way they phrase the question. So in this case, you can say that they are oligopolistic because why? Maybe the market share is very high. Maybe barriers to entry are very high. I don't know because I didn't give you an extract, but I can propose it should be either B or S, as I mentioned before for case studies. Okay? So we don't really talk about profit outcome. Biceps plus P, the profit outcome is more for essays, not so much for case studies. Okay? But for the antithesis, I don't think I can say they are PC firms. Even MC firms, a bit hard. But you could say maybe they are localized monopolies. This could be a new term for some of you. What I'm saying here is that within a shopping mall, there's only one cinema operator. So they are a local monopoly. Okay? You either see as localized or some notes put as local, either one. If you go to your school canteen, if there's only one drink store, the drink store is a local monopoly. There's only one chicken rice seller, the chicken rice seller is a local monopoly. Okay? So you could zoom in and cut out the location and zero in on a small area and say, well, within this operating scope, it's a monopoly. Okay? So for question 1, I put it here for 2 reasons. The first one is to explain whether, explain if. Alright? 2 sides. Are you okay? 2 sides to your answer? Can the second one is I already explained. Okay. Remember I said barriers to entry. I suggest you go and do some DDEE notes. DDEE because I said, not sure if you remember this. Okay, I said for barriers to entry under biceps, I suggest you do up the notes because some questions, even full-length essays, may require you to write 10 marks for just barriers to entry. So you need in-depth knowledge. So in this case, you could also see a question like this. The basis of Singtel's market power. Basis of market power, what gives rise to your dominant position is really just barriers to entry. Alright, so you can talk about, I think this was last time when I really set this as a test when I collected. I saw some students who were talking about what is market power. No, you just need to know basis of market power is about barriers to entry. When we say natural barriers to entry, it could be your EOS. That would be a nice natural barrier to entry. Artificial would be things like licensing. Okay. But again, explain 4 marks. Last week we mentioned you need to diversify your answer. So you need 2 points, 2 examples of barriers to entry. Okay. From the list, perhaps the most important point I want you to note is question 3. Why? See, whenever they ask you to explain reasons, right? Reasons for a firm's decision, whatever that decision may be. Okay? So explain the reasons for a firm doing something. You should always tie it back to the profit motive. The firm does something because they want to earn profits. We assume by default they are all profit driven. So if I ask you to explain reasons for Google's expansion into the ebook industry, reasons for Google leaving this market, or whatever the case is profits. If it's explained, 4 marks again, diversify. How do you come up with 2 points? You break down profits into revenue and cost. Right? So diversify the answer to talk about revenue and cost advantages. They didn't ask for a diagram, don't draw it. Okay, save time. Okay. You have seen questions, right? Explain likely reasons for increase in the price. Then you always talk about demand factor, supply factor. Likewise, diversifying is important here. Okay. Question 4. Explain whether the act of bus companies charging concessionary travel for students, senior citizens, and national servicemen is an example of price discrimination. Okay? I see explain whether. Did you see that? Okay? That's why I always propose for case studies, before you read the extract, go through the questions first. You might want to say, oh, this is this, so I need 2 sides. To be safe, I'm not saying every examiner expects the 2 sides, but as far as I see, quite a number of them do. So we should play it safe. Okay? Explain whether, okay, for price discrimination, when I went through this, I said the first thing is to check against the definition. Definition of price discrimination says it's the same good and it's not due to cost differences. So upon checking, I realized, oh, this fits the definition of price discrimination, because whether a student, senior citizen, national serviceman, or other passengers, you are still bringing them that same journey, right? It's the same good. It's not due to cost differences. We don't want to say, oh, it's cheaper to ferry students because students are lighter. Not true. Okay? So check against definition. All right? After which, you highlight that this is 3rd degree PD. Okay? The criteria here means the firm has market power. You can segment the market. Resale is not possible. Okay. So these points are valid as well. Okay. If you haven't gone through price discrimination, never mind. This one is for future reference, for posterity.